A shadow is an entity quite separate from you and me. By day, it clings to your 2 feet, but nightly, shadow people meet. Free from their shadowcaster's hold, these shifting shapes are brave and bold. They quest the moonlit earth in troops, or solo if they don't like groups. And cross the plains and seas they drift, but such explorers must be swift, for when the fiery globe returns, sun's rays will little shadows burn. So to your feet they must retreat, to hide from flaming stars' white heat, till night falls on the land of men, and shadow folk can roam again. Shadow People poem by Metaphorist.
When you lay in bed at night, unable to sleep and staring up at the ceiling, they just might be watching you. You look into the darkest corner of the room, and all you see is shadow. As you focus on it, it almost looks like that deep blackness is in the shape of a person. You chuckle to yourself, knowing that your eyes are just playing tricks on you in the dark. But then, that shadow moves. Many people have reported encounters with strange beings, darker than the darkness around them. What are they? What do they want? Tonight, we once again stare into the abyss on this dark and dim episode of Snipe Hunt.
Welcome to this spooktacular episode of Snipe Hunt, your frightening folklore podcast. I'm your host who dwells in the dark, Darren Young.
I like that. And I am your host, the ghoul in the gloom, Gary Clevenstein. It's almost Halloween, so welcome to the first of our spine-chilling October episodes. Is this our first?
Well, we re-released the werewolf episode kind of like on the verge between September 31st and October 1st.
So it's the first one actually recorded in October.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this one is a fan-requested episode. Shadow People. These blackened beings are an all too common experience for many, and those who have witnessed them have never forgotten their hair-raising experience.
I would also like to point out that we are actually recording at night this time, so it will be extra spooky.
Yeah, for you, because you actually have peace and quiet.
Well, you don't know, Gary. All that hustle and bustle at your house might be covering up the noises that are made by the shadows.
Oh yeah, I just wish something all of a sudden the cabinet doors go slam, and everything just goes flying out of them, and everybody is just petrified. Yes, that'd be great.
That would be. We would get it all recorded too.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be awesome. With the advent of the internet, many people have shared their experiences and have popularized the shadow person phenomena within the paranormal zeitgeist. So keep the lights on, or turn them out if you're brave enough, for tonight we belong to the shadows. Let's begin. As always, the definition, man. What is a shadow person?
Well, Darren, a shadow person or shadow people are phantom-like figures that are humanoid in shape, but are made of a pitch black shadow. Unlike a real shadow, their pitch darkness is darker than its surroundings. It has a physical depth to it and does not require a light source. Like a real shadow or even a silhouette, they usually have no face or features within the blackness on their body, but occasionally they do have glowing eyes.
Spoopy.
They always appear as a male figure, and they are often unnaturally tall and may even have elongated features like hands and fingers. Some seem to be wearing a cloak or a hat. These differences might be an indication of different types of shadow people. The hatted ones seem to be particularly malicious, but more on this later. Some have even reportedly tried to talk or communicate with the person they appear to. They often lurk in the peripherals of our vision. I'm so happy. I almost did not say that right, but I got it out.
I'm proud of you.
And come out at night to watch us, and they are aware when we notice them.
I was like, for a second, I was like, why is he reading it like that? And I was like, oh yeah, that's his Definition Man voice.
Yeah, I'm Definition Man. Come on.
My bad.
They come in a few different shapes. The first one just being a solid black mass with a less defined humanoid outline. Then we have just the basic shadow humanoid shape with a more defined outline. Sometimes these are the fashionable ones with the outlines of clothing in their forms. And then we have ones that take on a more demonic appearance. They might have horns or wings or even glowing red eyes.
So last October, we recorded the Black Eyed Kids episode, and this was partly in due to, like, I'm not really scared of any of these urban legends or myths or anything like that, but except for the Black Eyed Kids. Do you share any sort of similar aversion to shadow people?
You know,
because they really don't do it for me, if that makes any sense.
You know,
like, yeah, I would be terrified if I saw one, but
well, anytime I think of shadow people, I do, like, if you watch a really scary movie at night, like, cause like,
oh yeah,
my oldest daughter is a horror fanatic. And so we'd watch movies all the time. And then I would go to bed, and almost always in the corner of your eye, you would see something walk across the hallway or something in the corner of the room. And so to answer your question, yeah, they freak me out. But I've never, I've always chalked it up to just, that's my brain.
Right. It's they kind of dwell in the place where you're already in a paranoid state. So when you see, like,
wherever you're at, it's like,
what was that?
Yeah, what was that? And yeah, so I don't say they freak me out, but I mean,
right. But we've all had that instance where we thought we saw something move in the darkness or saw something out of the corner of our eyes.
Tell me you've never had to go, like, pee or something like that, and it's pitch black in the house, and you're just like, you feel something behind you, and you're just like, it just makes you walk a little bit faster.
Yeah, you get that feeling that something's watching you, and
right?
Maybe a little hair raises on end, but yeah, I think we can all relate to that just a little bit. I think maybe they feed off of it. They feed off our fear. Well, anyway, we'll get to that once we get to theories. But for now, let's do the history, as I like to do. So the earliest mention of a shadow person-like form may be from ancient Egypt. In their mythology, there were 7 parts to a human soul, and I will list them all now. No, I'm just kidding. And all of them combined was what formed a person. One of these aspects of the soul was the shut, or shadow. And yes, it is pronounced shut. I did look it up. For the first time, I actually looked up pronunciation. A real shadow is always present. Therefore, it was surmised that the shadow was a necessary aspect of a person. The shadow was considered to represent death. It was a servant of Anubis, the Egyptian god of death and the afterlife. In depictions, the shut resembled a small humanoid figure painted completely black. Some pharaohs even kept a special shadow box. In which their shut was stored. These shuts were often used metaphorically, either to represent death, an aspect of the soul, a deity, or even the impact an individual left on earth. Sometimes the shut was a form taken on by the deceased, who rose from the tomb by day and wandered while in the form of a thin black shadow. Then we have Arabic mythology. There are jinn, which we covered way back in episode 2. A term which can refer to many supernatural creatures, but specifically refers to the supernatural counterparts to humans and angels. Beings born of a smokeless fire. They live in the same world as us, but in a sort of parallel dimension, and can pierce the veil between their world and ours. The jinn can take on many different forms, but as you may have guessed, they can appear to us as a shadow, either formless or humanoid. Also, both Hebrew and Greek beliefs hold that the dead live in the form of a shadow in the underworld and are referred to as shades. In Hebrew beliefs, the underworld is Sheol, the permanent destination of the dead and a lair of darkness. It is a place of punishment, meant for those who are wicked in life until the last judgment. The shades who dwell in Sheol can sometimes be contacted, but are otherwise unable to affect the living world. The shades in Greek mythology dwell in Hades, and are literal and metaphorical shadows of their former selves. They wander aimlessly, as they have no sense of self. Hades is not a place of punishment, but rather a place of unchanging neutrality. So they just kind of lose all aspects of themselves that made them people. No individuality. Now you're just a lifeless husk, essentially. In some cases, these Greek shades can appear in the land of the living if they are angry, but are otherwise not considered malevolent. In Africa, the Yoruba culture has 3 spiritual aspects to human existence. First is the Emi, the most physical aspect. This one's in charge of breathing. It is essential to life and physical activities. Alada is the guardian spirit that provides guidance and protection to a person. And then we have Ojiji, the shadow. And this is what the Encyclopedia of African Religion has on this particular aspect.
I could have swore that said Ouija.
I mean, it's really close.
Oh, man. That's where my head's at tonight.
Call back to another episode.
Yeah. Ojiji, the shadow, is always with the person. One does not escape the shadow. It goes everywhere the person goes, and it remains with the person throughout life on the earth, as evidence that one is alive and not a ghost. So the Ojiji is attached to an individual from the first time he or she appears in the world. Would it be he or she?
It would be. I apologize.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Can you hear Chloe?
No.
Okay, good. Should I read that last bit again?
Yeah.
So the Ojiji is attached to an individual from the first time he or she appears in the world.
In East Africa, there is a being known as the Popobawa. That's a fun name. Its name literally translates to Batwing, which is thought to come from the shadow cast by the evil spirit at night.
That gives me an idea.
Yeah?
And I'm going to start to, if I'm hanging out with friends, say, hey guys, want to see the Popobawa? And then you do that Batwing thing, You know what the Batwing is, right?
Oh, God. We're just gonna move on from that.
Okay.
This is a family show. Well, not really, but kind of. It attacks at night, either causing poltergeist activity or assaulting the members of a household, which can even include the sexual assault of both men and women alike. Yeah, remember 2 seconds ago when I said this is a family show? Maybe not so much. And also kind of steering down this weird road. It seems that there are a lot of African cryptids that seem to sexually assault people. I know that the Ahul, a giant bat cryptid, has been reported to sexually assault at least one person. And in my research for this episode, I found another predator cryptid that was so strange I had to include it. It's called the Orang Magnek. And here is a brief description provided by the Wikipedia page.
All right. Orang Magnek is a creature that abducts young women by night. Supposedly, the creature is able to climb walls and grab victims while evading capture due to its slippery coating. According to some folklorists, the Orang Magnek has been alternately described as appearing naked or wearing a black pair of swimming trunks. A number of stories describe the Orang Magnek as a rapist that only targets virgins. Yeah, we just took that phrase that you said earlier about the family and just hacked family right out of it. The Orang Magnek has been traditionally blamed for rapes beginning in the 1950s, and superstitious Malay female students would attempt to ward off the creature by donning sweaty clothing to give the appearance of someone who had just been with a man.
So, obviously I wouldn't target them if they weren't virgins, but yeah, I thought it was really weird. I was like, what are they talking about? But I did partly include it just because it's so weird. I also partly included because this cryptid and / or spirit actually does bear a resemblance to a shadow person. Being covered in oil gives him an all black humanoid appearance. So maybe just a gross, rapey version of the shadow being. Definitely one of the more odd and disturbing creatures we've come across. But moving on for that, we have the Choctaw Native American tribe have their own shadow beings. There is the Impa Shilluk, the Great Black Being. If one thought evil thoughts or was in despair, this would allow the Impa Shilluk to enter their minds and eat their soul. It is thoughts that even saying his name will summon the spirit. So I guess I'm screwed. Like the Egyptians and the Yoruba, the Choctaw believe that mankind has different aspects of the soul. The first being the Shilombish, the outside shadow, which always followed him. The second was the Shilluk, the inside shadow, which goes to the land of ghosts after death. And upon death, the Shimbolish remains on the earth and wanders restlessly around its former home, moaning and frightening those away from its haunt. These shadow beings would imitate the sounds of animals and stalk young people at night. So a lot of stalking going on.
Huh?
A lot of stalking going on with these shadow people.
Yeah, it was. And they sound like a bunch of Jewish names.
Shimbolish,
Shimlombish, and then there was
yeah, it sounds like something from the Old Testament. Shimbolish and his brother Shilluk.
Yeah. You seriously can't hear Chloe?
I think I heard a little bit like just 2 seconds ago, but while you were talking, but other than that, no.
Pull her pug nose right out of her face. Dude, she's like getting louder and louder. Chloe, stop. I know you're just breathing, but still.
She has to breathe. Gary.
All right. The concept of this being and the term shadow person was made popular in modern times on Art Bell's Coast to Coast AM radio show. On April 15, 2001, Art interviewed Native American elder Thunderstrikes, also known as Harley Swift-Deer Reagan.
I want to change my name to Thunderstrikes.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Even Harley Swift-Deer Reagan. That sounds like. Now coming to the ring, Harley Swift-Deer Reagan.
Oh no, I went to the Mortal Kombat theme song, but I guess it works.
Yeah, there you go. That works. In this interview, Harley discusses many different topics, including the many dimensions of reality, as well as the heightened perception that people are capable of. The heightened perception that people are capable of through our 5 ears and 10 eyes.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not normal.
I about to say, I only have 2 ears. That's weird. Yeah.
Then he finally gets to the topic of shadow people, who he describes as being interdimensional beings that were first recorded in 1153 BC by indigenous people.
So a very specific year, but I don't think he really followed up with why it was so specific.
Right. Well, now I'm like, I'm seeing a pattern here, like everything going to interdimensional if it can't be.
Yeah. It's just the catch-all for everything weird that happens.
Come on, guys, it's interdimensional. Everybody knows. Thunderstrikes, aka Swift-Deer, aka Harley Reagan, is a pretty controversial figure. He claims to be. No way.
Yeah.
He claims to be an accomplished half Cherokee teacher, healer, and martial artist with, quote, an extensive background in philosophy, psychology, religion, martial arts, and ancient mystery school traditions. But judging on the fact that he is as white as milk running down a fridge to the marble flooring and the amount of absolute gibberish he spouts, he might just be a phony.
What?
No
Thunderstrikes, aka Harley Swift-Deer Reagan, is a phony?
There's no way.
Dude, he was my icon. He was my everything. What am I going to do now?
And we are by far not the only ones to think so.
Nope.
But back to shadow people. In this interesting interview, listeners were encouraged to send drawings of shadow people, and many were sent out and featured on their website. A couple of these original drawings will be posted on the Snipe social media pages, thanks to the Library of Congress. Thanks to the Library of Congress web archive, because the original page just doesn't exist anymore.
Nope. You try to go to it now and it'll just pull up a blank page. But luckily you can go to the archive and
bullcrap. It's the government, man. I'm telling you.
Right. Actually, funnily enough, call back to the Black Eyed Kids episode. Actually pulled a lot of that information from that same web archive.
Really?
Yeah. So it's become a pretty good place because, pages go up and go down in the web, but the web archive has them all pretty much.
Oh, so it basically is just a copy and paste of these, these dead websites.
Yeah. It's these dead websites, but it still retains like the page formatting and everything. It's actually pretty cool.
Well, in October of 2001, a few months after the Coast to Coast interview, author Heidi Hollis published her first book on the shadow people titled The Secret War, The Heavens Speak of the Battle, which is presented as a factual account but is written like a work of fiction. This book runs the gambit of paranormal themes and includes, quote, the mysteries surrounding the Great Pyramids of Egypt, crop circles, ghosts, God, government activities, the afterlife, comatose patients, Jesus visions, Stonehenge, various beings and their roles, hell, and self-help advice to stop unwanted intrusions by alien and demonic beings. And, of course, shadow people are wedged in there somewhere.
So quite the broad range of subjects. But they're all connected, Gary. Can't you see? It's all connected, man.
Somehow.
Yeah, I definitely didn't read that book for this episode. You couldn't pay me enough to.
It's probably boring.
It probably is. It's probably like just a bunch of terms thrown in that don't make really any sense. And from what I read from Heidi Hollis, that seems to kind of be her like signature. Make connections where there are none.
Hope she doesn't listen to this.
I hope she does. Heidi,
yeah.
You know better.
Well,
you're better than this.
Bad.
We're not mad. We're just disappointed.
Heidi Hollis has since been a frequent guest on Coast to Coast, and now almost all of her books are about the shadow person phenomenon, including a follow-up of sorts titled The Secret War, a true story about a real alien war and shadow people. She seems just as credible as old Harley Reagan, but that doesn't necessarily mean the encounters shared in her books are not true. Since 2001, stories about shadow people have dominated paranormal forums and remain one of the most common ghostly encounters. The sheer number of reports might just lend some credibility to this phenomenon. But before we get to those reports, let's talk about a particularly menacing type of a shadow person. The Hat Man. 'Cause I'm a hat man.
All right. So,
there you go.
Definition, man. What is the Hat Man exactly, and how does he differ from a typical shadow person?
Well, Darren, I'm glad you asked. The Hat Man is a humanoid shadow figure who seems to wear a shadowy trench coat, and most notable, a wide-brimmed hat or fedora. Sometimes even a top hat, depending on how sexy he's feeling.
Yeah, he sounds pretty dapper either way, actually.
Do that in there myself. I'm sorry. All right. Some have reported even seeing glowing white or red eyes, but most have said his face lacks any sort of detail, just like the rest of his shadowy body. He gives off the air of authority, and some have speculated he is a sort of shadow person boss. He also seems more malicious and aggressive than other shadow people, and witnesses to this horrific haberdasher. What are we in the 1950s?
I had to put that in there.
Horrific haberdasher!
So I'm going to start calling people now.
Yeah. That'd probably end it really quick. They'd be like, what?
What? Huh?
What? And witnesses to this horrific haberdasher often describe a feeling of pure dread. Not everyone has a negative experience with regular shadow people, but everyone is afraid of the Hat Man. There is a website called Hatmanproject.com run by a man named Tim Brown, who has had his own encounter with the frightening fedora. He describes the site as such.
The aim of this website is to explore the stories of the many sightings that have been reported. This is the very first and only website solely dedicated to researching, collecting, and archiving information and stories relating to the Hatman. As more stories are researched and collected, they will be posted on this site regularly.
Unfortunately, not all the links on this site work, including the one to his own encounter.
Wow.
But you can still access most of the stories on the site as long as you stay on the homepage.
Yay. Lucky for us.
Now let's get to the real reason why you tuned into this episode. To hear about encounters with shadow people. It's time for Spooky Stories.
Spooky Stories.
Spooky Stories. I saw a black mass. That's never a good thing.
Nope. I would say not.
This first encounter comes from Reddit user Emma ID, titled, I saw a black mass, and it saw me. It's always been thought that my childhood home was haunted. It's an old New England-style home built in 1929. Growing up, my siblings and I have heard footsteps, a woman's voice, kitchen cupboards opening and closing, and have had some pretty vivid nightmares. Sometimes, both my brothers will have the same nightmare, the same night. Creepy. A couple summers ago, while I was home from school, activity really started picking up. I remember one morning I was the first one up, which was really odd because my mom typically was always up before me. I heard her alarm go off from her room, but she wasn't snoozing it or turning it off. It was like she didn't even hear it. I got up and started heading downstairs to the kitchen, but before I got out of my room, a very large black mass the shape of a person walked out of my youngest brother's room, right next to mine, and into my mom's room, directly across the hall. I thought it was my brother, so I began calling to him, asking what in the world he was doing. It was odd because although it was very early in the morning, there was still enough light to see all around. But the black mass stayed exactly that, a black mass. No features, no face, just black. After not getting a response, I began to realize this mass wasn't my brother. It completely ignored me and headed to the foot of my mom's bed where she slept peacefully, alarm clock still going off. I stood frozen in my tracks and watched this thing, I really don't know what to call it, slowly move to the side of the bed facing towards me. And although I couldn't see any eyes, I knew it was looking right at me. Then it ever so slowly slinked down next to my mother. She didn't even flinch. After that, I ran downstairs. Later in the day, I asked my mom to be sure if my brother had laid down with her in the morning. She answered me no. I also asked my brother if he got up early for whatever reason and went into my mom's room. He told me he was in his room from when he went to bed until he woke up at 10 later that morning. So I have no idea what I saw. Even though it scared the crap out of me, I didn't feel like it was going to harm me.
So that's creepy. It just lays down with the sleeping mom. I mean, maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. All of these stories that we've read on the show and everything else, it's all like anytime you hear any story like that, it's about the same common thing, but the cryptid is always different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's something different, but it's the same scenario.
Where it lays.
So that's what leads me to believe
that
it's all mental. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, a common thread could lend more credence to it, or it could lend some skepticism to it. And I'm sure all the stories, not all the stories we read are like legit encounters. I'm sure some are just people made up, or they just look through like Reddit threads and be like, oh, okay, this is how I need to write my story and all that stuff. But
right.
Honestly, it would be better to and I would love to do this for like an encounters episode, to have people record them telling their own stories.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I've been trying to get people to do that, but no one's done so far. But that way you can actually hear the emotion in their voice. So that way even you can definitely tell that they experienced something.
I mean, yeah, they could even do it like just on the voice record thingy on their phone.
Exactly. It doesn't, I mean, I can clean it up. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. But another thing that's reminded me of is the alarm was going off and the mom wouldn't wake up. So Granny, whenever me and Brent have stayed over there, she'll sleep in the living room and her alarm will go off for like an hour before she actually gets up. And her alarm clocks are right by her head, and it's so loud. And I'll come out there and be like, is Granny okay? And I'll be like, okay, she's breathing. She's fine. But
I was gonna say, it sounds like me, man. Like I have to buy my alarms because the ones that come standard on the phone just aren't loud enough.
oh my gosh.
So I buy them. Yeah, like I'll still freaking sleep through them.
Yeah, and
like
it sounds like the mom doesn't really usually sleep through her alarms. It says she's always up early, so something definitely weird was happening here. Maybe she just dreamt it, or maybe something actually happened. But
yeah, I'm gonna give you a sample of what my alarm sounds like that I sleep right through.
Oh no!
Okay, I'm gonna put it away from the microphone.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, like this one.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that would wake me up for sure. Yeah, it's nice high pitched and wow.
Right. Yeah. See, I'll sleep right through it.
See, I'm a heavy sleeper during the night, but when it comes morning, my body shifts into light sleeper mode, and so like I need like a really subtle alarm because otherwise, just I hate waking up anyway. So if I just have a really annoying alarm, it's gonna make it worse for me. All right, moving on to the next story, titled "Shadow Entity." This next story comes from Reddit user Alltac1137. So this was around the end of 2018. It was muggy, rainy, and kind of nasty out in central Illinois. That day, me and my friend had just got out of school and went to this abandoned house we had been to before. From what we knew on the place from the research I did, a Catholic family of Austrian immigrants lived there. The last son died in September of 2015 in the house next to it, and the home was constructed in 1915. Well, when me and my friend went in there, a lot of their personal belongings were still there. The last few times we came in there, I had this uncanny feeling of being stalked by something. Like it was right behind me, breathing down my neck, about to do something, or hiding in the corner watching me. My friend had the same feeling at the time, but was too afraid to admit it until he encountered what this entire post is about. We were going out the alley in the back of the house, and I got this crippling intuition that told me not to go into that house. The feeling of being watched returned, and we were standing in the backyard of the house. As me and my friend got closer, the feeling of dread got more and more intense. My buddy laughed at me and said I was being stupid and was being scared for no reason, so he said I could wait outside while he went in to check the house out. He goes in, up the back step, through the broken, albeit heavy wooden back door, and into the back porch addition. There was a small hall you had to go through to enter the house, which led into the kitchen. This is where we saw the shadow thing, as he called it. He said it was darker than the rest of the room it was in, about child height. He couldn't make out any details, but he said right as he had stepped into the house, a few footsteps in, this thing peeked his head around the doorway from the kitchen that led into the hall, and he said it had these small, white, marble-sized eyes. He got scared and froze there and ran out. He said as he was running out, it didn't move from the spot as he ran. Cut back to me outside. I see my friend come running out of the creepy house, literally like he had seen a ghost. He was shaking and pale. He tells me this thing he saw, and then I went in myself to investigate, despite my instincts telling me not to, with my friend behind me in case something happens. I get right to the doorway my friend saw this thing at, and the dread became too strong for me to go any further. I literally stopped and started to curl over from fear, like I was about to be beaten badly or something along those lines. Just intense fear and doom, like my life was in danger. I couldn't go any further, and we just left. We both went home, ended up not talking about it for a while, because it freaked us both out.
Don't bring it up, man.
Don't bring it up. Just don't bring it up.
it up.
But you know me and creepy children, and so this is probably
Right.
the one that gets me out of all the Shadow People stories. It's just like, and it had eyes too. So
Oh,
that's one.
God.
Yeah, could you imagine?
It's even worse when they have eyes.
Yeah, but this one seems almost more like ghost-like than anything else. It's kind of haunting this abandoned house, and then they go in and they see it, and it didn't like follow them out or anything. So that's actually one of the theories, which we'll get to, is that these things are just a kind of spirit or ghost. So I tried to include stories that kind of like encompassed what Shadow People were about. Usually they're like adult size, and this was child size, so which is rare, but it happens. Even to the point where like people see like shadow animals, but I mean they could just be animals. And this might just be like a homeless kid.
Yeah.
So that's like, I think that's the most logical. You know, there's
What was
this
that about,
abandoned house.
mister?
Yeah, he just comes out. He's like, "Hey,
Hey.
creepy nonetheless."
Well, do you want to talk about the infamous Hat Man?
I do want to talk about the infamous Hatman.
Well, this story comes from Hatmanproject.com, dated February 14th, 2016. And what better
Valentine's Day.
date than Valentine's Day? Yeah. It is titled, "He Looked Blacker Than the Night. I Could Feel the Evil."
I was 23 when I saw what I think people call the Hatman. It was by far the most terrifying experience of my life. First, let me say that it was early morning and still dark. My mother and I are both nurses, so working day shift, we left early for work before daylight. I was staying with my mom to save up money. My mother would drop my 5-year-old son off to daycare for me because it was on her way to work. We lived on 5 acres with large lights on wooden poles throughout the property that turned on by a timer. It gave a sense of protection because it could get really dark. But this illusion was dispelled instantly that morning. Walking to our vehicles, I noticed a man standing under one of the lights closest to the house. I couldn't see his clothes per se, but their outlines. He didn't have a trench coat. It looked to be a mid-thigh Victorian-era coat tapered. He had on boots from what the outline suggested, a stove hat. He was looking at a watch on a chain. He didn't cast a shadow of his own. He was black as night. It's amazing the things that grow through your head when something like this is happening. I could feel the evil coming off him in waves. It was almost like my adrenaline was about to make my heart explode. I was so terrified I actually felt my eyes dilate. I began screaming at my mother to put my son in the car. Just go. Go right the f*** now. Not my usual vocabulary. Plus they couldn't see or feel what I was feeling. My mother kept yelling, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I walked back to her car and put my son in the seat and literally forced my mom into leaving without me. All the while it's watching. I can't see it smiling, but I can, if that makes sense. It made me sick to my stomach. We had a 500-foot long driveway that led to a dirt road, very isolated. I didn't get in my car and follow my mother and son until they were at the end. I had to make sure it wouldn't follow them. I just looked straight at it. My heart is running at a 10K and I am standing still. I left finally to my mother waiting for me at the end of the dirt road to the highway. Bewildered, I made her leave and called her from my cell to explain why I acted like a crazy person. Strangely, she believed me. I don't think it was used to my reaction. I had to protect my family. Even though I knew it was there for me, I don't know how I knew this, I just did. I hope I never feel that type of intense fear again. Ever. I've met my quota in spades. This one was interesting because it's like the Hatman's not doing anything but standing there menacingly. And and apparently that was enough just to cause this intense reaction from the witness. Definitely felt fear and there was imminent danger. So mother instincts kicked in and got her son away. So that's good. But I think this was a good example of what the Hatman, what kind of reaction he gets out of just appearing to people. And this one actually seemed more dapper than even the others because he had more accessories. He looked like he was looking at a shadowy pocket watch. So, any thoughts?
Oh, that's what you're waiting for?
Related to the story, anyway.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Not about whatever's going on over there.
So you want some thoughts? God, I can give you a, we can make a whole show. That gives me an idea for a show. Gary's thoughts crunched up in 45 minutes to an hour. No, I think it's cool that her mom believed her, instead of making her feel crazy. That's cool.
That's good. I guess if you get that kind of reaction, like if you witness someone react out of that kind of fear, it's kind of hard to disbelieve them that they didn't see anything.
Right.
But crazy people have that fear too.
Right. So maybe in her mom's head, she's like, God dang, not this again.
All right, so let's move on to the next story and the last one for now, which also comes from Reddit. The user's account has been deleted. Anonymous. But the story is still there. This happened 30 years ago before the internet and Coast to Coast Radio allowed the collection of people's similar experiences with the Hatman. The Hatman is described as a tall man wearing black boots, a black Victorian-era coat, and a black hat. Often people wake up to see him standing at the foot of their bed, or they see him standing out in their yard in the early hours of the morning. He's not a ghost that disappears in just a few seconds. He'll remain for several minutes, standing perfectly still, staring at you with cold, evil eyes, grinning at you with a cold, evil grin. So anyway, now that you know who the Hatman is, 30 years ago I was in the process of moving out of my first apartment. It was the first place I rented all by myself, and so I had taken some pictures with my camera so I could remember my first apartment. I know it sounds silly, but I bet we all do it. We don't. I remember it was late at night. I was packing some last few things into small boxes that I would take with me when I checked out the next morning with the super. I thought I had been seeing things out of the corner of my eye all day, like shadows or silhouettes, but I had always been skeptical of things like that, and I assumed I was just tired and my eyes were playing tricks on me. Anyways, I remember I knocked over a pile of framed photos that I had stacked up in a bedroom, and when I bent over to pick them up, I felt this presence behind me. You can tell when someone is directly behind you, and that's exactly how it felt. All the same, I suddenly felt cold all over. It could be that I was just freaking out for no reason, but I swear the temperature dropped like people say, cold spots. I turned around, but there was no one there. My kitchen still felt very cold. I stood at the doorway of my living room, and suddenly my heart stopped. In the large mirror in my living room, I could clearly see the reflection of a man wearing all black, standing in the middle of the dimly lit living room. But no one was actually in front of me in the room. The man was not looking at me in the mirror. It looked like he was standing in front of my calendar that I had on the door of my apartment. Then the worst thing you can imagine happened. His right arm began to slowly rise till he was pointing at a date. He held his hand there, his finger pressing into the calendar for almost 15 seconds. I couldn't see the date he was pointing at, but suddenly, I just knew that he was pointing to Friday, 3 days later. At the time, a tsunami of evil hit me, and I felt as some giant icy hand was squeezing my entire insides. The next thing I knew, it was morning, and the super was knocking at my door. Apparently, I had passed out on the floor. The rest of the day, I thought about what I thought I had seen, and concluded by dinner time it had just been a really bad, weird dream. A month later, I got the pictures developed, and I nearly shit myself. I didn't hear anyone talk about the Hatman until much later in the mid-2000s, but today I believe that's exactly who I met. In one of the pictures, the Hatman is standing in the middle of my living room, dressed in black, grinning at me with the most evil grin you can imagine.
And then he deleted my Reddit account.
So I actually do have the link to the picture in the show notes if you want to go and click on that.
Oh my god.
So sorry,
Man,
listeners. So sorry, listeners, that you can't see it, but I had to include this. This whole story has been kind of a rickroll. If you click on the link, it's a picture of the Milady meme guy, which is this kind of overweight neckbeard tipping his
dude. I was
hat.
so excited, man.
But as soon as I saw that, and because I totally fell for it, I was like, "Man, this is a good story." He tells the story really well.
Yeah,
I know. The picture, I just busted out laughing.
God. I was excited,
Oh,
man. I
man.
like pictures like that.
Well, there you go. There's your picture.
Good night.
I actually found this the guy from this meme like on Facebook. I forget what his name was, but I found it, and it's actually him.
Oh,
but I had to.
I don't know.
put it-
I've thought about that. Like, would I want to become a meme?
Yeah, that's the thing about memes. It's because the biggest accomplishment of your life was through no effort of your own.
Right?
You're just
And
kind
now
of
you're
happy
famous.
one day. You're just kind of there. It's not really about you, but it is about you, if that makes any sense. So
Right.
there's definitely pros and cons to it. So sorry I ruined the spooky vibe, but I could not.
Yeah. I was like,
Great.
God, what a buzzkill.
We are a somewhat of a comedy podcast, so
We try.
we try.
All right. So, on to theories.
Woo.
Let's talk about some
Let's
theories.
do it.
One of the more popular theories about shadow people is also what most cases of encounters seem to be: sleep paralysis. Now, we did a whole episode on sleep paralysis, so we'll keep it brief here. That was one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, that was a good one. I did miss a couple of the. Sorry to interrupt you. I did miss a couple of the creatures, but as I was researching this episode, I found more, and I was like, "Dang it! Why didn't I include these in the episode?" I couldn't find them at the time.
well.
But
Anyway, look it up. I'm sure it's all over the internets. Sleep paralysis is a state where a person is conscious but is unable to move or speak. This usually occurs when a person is falling asleep or waking up. The person is in a hypnagogic or hypnopompic state, which refers to the transitional state between wakefulness and sleep, or vice versa. One suffering from sleep paralysis may experience imagined sounds such as humming, static, or voices. They can also have other sensations such as feeling of levitation, numbness, electric tingles, or heavy pressure, as well as difficulty breathing. If you are experiencing any of these symptoms, please contact the Johnson Law Firm.
you may be entitled to compensation.
You may be entitled to compensation. Sleep paralysis can cause heightened emotional state of fear or a feeling of dread, and may include hallucinations such as a creature or person in the room or outside a window.
Sounds like the stories we've been reading so far.
Yeah. Just really real dreams.
Yeah, another connection I made through these not sleep paralysis shadow people is they seem to often occur like in the early morning when it's still dark out. So maybe this kind of leads itself to sleep paralysis when you're in a waking up state. So
I never really dream, at least not that I can. I mean, they say everybody dreams every night.
Yeah, I think we've discussed this before. I remember this conversation.
But it's like when my alarm goes off and I do happen to wake up with it.
Yeah.
And then let's say I snooze it and then I go back to sleep. That is when I have my vivid dreams.
Really?
Yeah. It's like within the 20 minutes of waking up, the process of waking up.
Yeah, I get you. I've definitely had those before.
But sleep paralysis is caused by an overlap between rapid eye movement, REM sleep, and the waking stages of sleep. REM sleep is the deepest stage of sleep, which is responsible for vivid dreams. The brain inhibits the motor neurons, which effectively paralyzes the body in order to prevent the body from acting out the dreams.
Now, we can dream without going into REM sleep, but this is like the main state in which you dream. So,
right, that's when you get your most rest.
Yes,
probably. Yeah. So essentially, you are dreaming while awake, all while feeling a sense of fear and dread. Shadow people are a very common experience among those who suffer from sleep paralysis. Of course, this does not account for the stories where witnesses are fully awake and moving.
Yeah, it's kind of, when paralysis is in the name, when you're moving, it kind of rules that out automatically. Similarly, the shadow person phenomenon might also be in part caused by sleep deprivation. Severe sleep deprivation can cause visual misconceptions and hallucinations. One of the most common hallucinations is movement in one's peripheral vision. Sounds familiar. This movement can be seen in the form of static, flashes of light, blur, or shadows, of course. Severe sleep deprivation might even cause more complex hallucinations like full-bodied shadow people. Meth, which I wasn't expecting to come across this, but meth even plays a role in the appearance of shadow people. Common side effects of using methamphetamine include increased attention and decreased fatigue, increased activity and wakefulness, decreased appetite, euphoria and rush, increased respiration, rapid/irregular heartbeat, and hypothermia. And once again, if you experience any of these symptoms, you may be entitled to compensation. Call Saul Goodman's law offices. Sorry.
Johnson and Johnson.
Did you watch Breaking Bad?
I never did, no.
Gary.
Is it good?
It might even be the best television show ever made.
Yeah, I mean, it's up there with the ratings.
So when I said call Saul Goodman's law offices, that was a Breaking Bad reference.
I got you.
I figured since you didn't address it that you didn't see it.
Is Saul the lawyer?
Yeah, Saul Goodman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he got a spin off.
Yeah, he did, and that's actually really good as well. It's a little bit more of a slow burn than Breaking Bad is, but still really good.
This is irrelevant, but me and my son just finished One Punch Man.
I'm so proud
I love
of you.
it.
Isn't it great?
It's like, oh man, it's amazing. I'm so mad that I have to wait like forever for season 3.
Right.
But anyways, carry on.
The book The Methamphetamine Crisis, edited by Herbert C. Covey, elaborates on this. There is considerable folklore on how long a user can tweak. Reports of 15 to almost 40 days without sleep has been reported to the authors of this book. While meth is not an hallucinogen, it is easy to understand how prolonged sleep deprivation would result in bizarre behaviors and thoughts. Sleep deprivation can result in profoundly disturbing hallucinations. For example, many addicts will describe the shadow people that seem to appear and be very real to them. End quote. And so another interesting connection is that meth addicts are sometimes referred to as shadow people due to their aversion to light. So maybe not all shadow people encounters are paranormal. Sometimes you just see a meth head in an alley. That's technically a shadow people encounter.
See shadow people on the exit ramps all the time.
There's a big shadow people problem here in Arkansas. All right. Another possible reason for these experiences is an illusion caused by the stimulation of the left parietal junction of the brain. I'm just going to pretend like I say that right. This is what neurologist Olaf Blank of the Brain Mind Institute found as reported on sciencemag.org. The finding emerged by accident. Neurologist Olaf Blank of the Brain Mind Institute in Lausanne, Switzerland, and his colleagues were attempting to identify the source of epileptic seizures in a 23-year-old woman. They applied a mild current through surgically implanted electrodes to various regions of her brain. Not much happened until the researchers stimulated the woman's left TPJ, located... Sorry, that sounds so dirty. Located roughly above the left ear. Suddenly, she reported feeling the presence of a mystery person behind her, a motionless and speechless shadow that imitated her body posture and actions. He lay beneath her when she lay down, sat behind her when she sat down, and attempted to take the test card from her when she tried to participate in a language exercise. So basically, it's just, a stimulation of this certain part of the brain causes this weird illusion of something always being behind you. And maybe that's the part of the brain that gets stimulated when you feel like you're being watched. I didn't research that. I'm just guessing. I could be totally wrong. But it also reminds me of infrasound, where we can't actually hear it, but when we're exposed to it, we kind of get that feeling. We kind of get the shadows in the corner of our eye. We get the feeling of dread and all that. So I thought that was interesting. The scientific explanation. Now, what exactly could cause that stimulation besides electrodes? I have no idea, but I had to include it.
I'm convinced that you just wanted to throw some big words in there.
It's true, and then I wanted to completely butcher them. I wanted to sound smart, but then when it actually came to it, I couldn't. So
hey,
take that as you will.
All right. I wanted to try it. Temporoparietal.
Wow.
Temporoparietal.
Look at you go.
Yeah. Jeez. I impressed myself.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to the fringe theories, starting with the most common paranormal explanation. Shadow people are ghosts. Paranormal investigator Alejandra Garguilo.
Or it's Alexandra, either one.
Alexandra Garguilo believes a number of SP encounters are ghosts, as some reports show that some shadow people simply wander about, oblivious to the observing humans around them. Garguilo believes that they are earthbound spirits which can cross to the other side with the help of a medium. Other paranormalists believe they are spirits who are associated with more negative hauntings, a connection reflected in their dark, shadowy appearance. Others believe they are spirits that are in their own category altogether and can either be good or evil. Still others propose that they might be astral projections of a living person that either project intentionally or without knowing it.
So yeah, it's like it could be this kind of spirit, could be this kind of spirit, could be this kind of spirit.
This kind of spirit. Yeah.
Or it could even be this kind of spirit.
This kind of spirit. This negativity also ties them to another theory, that these beings are actually demons.
Hail Satan.
This is what most people who have encountered the Hatman seem to believe. The overwhelming fear caused by this entity and the perceived malice it exudes would fit well into the category of demonic. Pastor James Long of Louisville, Kentucky says this on the matter. Certainly shadows that attack are demonic in nature and should be avoided at all times. I would strongly encourage anyone who witnesses a dark shadow should be careful. It could be a human spirit trying to manifest itself, but it could also be demonic in nature.
Yeah, that's why I found it interesting, because not everyone has like a negative experience with a shadow person, but it seems like most people have have a negative experience specifically with the Hatman. And, you know, a lot of people refer to him as a devil or the devil within those stories. So
anything scary that's referred to the devil.
Yeah, that's true.
It's tied in with the devil. Anyways, a few believe they are omens who appear to warn people of an impending disaster or to herald someone's death.
So yeah,
kind of like the Mothman.
Yeah. And we kind of got that in the story earlier. That was the fake story where he pointed to the calendar, but nonetheless, do you think the Mothman and these omen shadow people are in league? Do you think they're kind of like his little servants?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh yeah, we need to
guarantee it.
We need to re-record that episode, by the way. Mothman.
Episode number That'd be 1. Fun.
Yeah, we're gonna.
I'm so excited for you. I was really excited to listen to that episode.
No, it's definitely going. Mothman is definitely my favorite cryptid. Also, can you tell Chloe to shh?
I'm trying. I've kicked her. I've done everything, but.
Another common theory is that SPs are beings from a separate dimension that are somehow bleed over into ours. See, interdimensional. Kind of the catch-all for everything. Traveling to parallel dimensions, if they do exist, is not possible with our current understanding of physics, but there might be a dimension where the physics of their world are different and make it possible to travel to, or maybe even project into another dimension. That's my favorite thing about like infinite dimension theory is like, yeah, it's impossible in this world, but there's also a world where it isn't impossible. It just kind of explains everything conveniently enough. If this is the case, then the people from the other dimension are just creepy and kind of pervy just to watch people in their bedrooms. These travelers might be spiritual beings of some sort, or even human-like beings using advanced technology. So maybe the shadow person guys is just kind of like a high-tech suit, or maybe like a projection of this person from another parallel dimension. And of course, we listed everything else, so we can't forget aliens. Now, based on everything we've heard so far, what in the world connects shadow people to aliens? Well, nothing really. It just seems to be a speculation. Author Mike Ricksecker explains this conjecture. Quote, "Here is a scenario to deliberate. An alien race is searching for a new home because its planet is dying, and they have detected Earth as a hospitable planet. However, they have also detected that there are intelligent beings who have already populated the planet. They decide they wish to observe the human race to determine if we are being in what they could cohabitate."
Want to play a game? That's what you said.
Thanks. I don't know what I was going for, but I was kind of going for like a conspiracy theorist kind of Alex Jonesy vibe. So they deploy a few of their kind on reconnaissance missions to Earth. For their own protection, they utilize a cloaking technology they develop for their spacesuits and send out their emissaries. At times, these emissaries stand in the corner of people's bedrooms, like pervs, or in their closets, or outside a window, to simply observe our nature. Unfortunately, this alien race is not familiar with our physicality and how our eyes receive and translate light. So instead of humans not seeing these aliens, All we see is a dark form standing and staring at us. This cloaking device works enough in that we don't see any discernible features of the alien wearing the suit or even any features of the suit itself. We only see a dark bipedal form that could be anything, but it frightens most people. Yeah, so obviously that's definitely the most logical explanation of all the ones we went through so far. Aliens and high-tech shadow people suits. And that's all we have on the shadow people. I hope we were able to shed some light on the subject.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's, I mean, I didn't come out of it really, learning anything new, really. I mean, besides,
you learned some of the history and the mythology.
Well, the history of it, but I mean, it just seems like it's, like I said, it's just one of them things that just seems like a mental thing.
Yeah, I think the real kind of meat of this subject in particular is the experiences that we've been reading, because there's not really, I mean, we had some shadow people like beings, but there's not really much on shadow people lore, if that makes any sense. So I think it's just a weird thing. Yeah, and it could very well be all mental. Even if it is all mental, I still think it's an interesting phenomenon nonetheless.
Well, I have something to say that I don't know if everybody say something I don't think people ever heard me say before.
Yeah.
But if you like the show,
I thought you were actually going somewhere else with it.
No. Please leave a rating on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or wherever else will let you leave a review. It is super important to us, and we really appreciate it, of course.
Yeah, it's so important to us. That's why Gary's saying it for the very first time.
Yeah, it's the very first time I'm saying this. Please follow us on social media. We'd love to hear from you guys. We really would.
Yes, please.
And,
send us an email, send us a message. We'll respond to you in kind.
And we are on Facebook and Twitter, as well as Instagram, Reddit, and YouTube.
Yes, and we are active on those, despite what Gary says every time we bring it up. We are, speaking of being active, we are also on Patreon, where you can get some exclusive, super secret, shadowy bonus content like blooper reel episodes and topic voting for as little as $1 a month. And the $5 tier gets you some extra spooky stories if you enjoy that part of our show. As usual, if you have a topic suggestion, a question, comment, criticism, or if you have a story you'd like us to share on our Encounter series, please contact us on social media or email us at snipehuntpodcast@gmail.com. As Halloween comes up, this would be the perfect time to record and email us your story. And since it's close to Halloween, I thought we should end with one final story. But first, the final joke. I should probably create a transition for that. This is something we just started last episode. So basically, I didn't really know how to end the show. So I was just like, I'm just going to make a joke out of it based on whatever we're talking about today. So today's subject is shadow people. So you're going to get a joke about that. You ready, Gary?
Yes.
So yeah, I don't think I trust my shadow, Gary.
Why is that?
He's a shady guy. I told you they could be dark, they could be stupid, they could be actually funny. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. This final story was sent to author Heidi Hollis and comes from her book, The Hatman, The True Story of Evil Encounters. When I was just 17 years old, I was 8 months pregnant. One night, I listened in as my parents were chatting back and forth about something. My dad kept asking my mom what was wrong, and my mom just kept saying that she was freezing. That was weird because it was a hot summer's night. So my dad didn't let up and kept bugging her until she finally said that she felt death in the house. About 2 weeks later, I was sleeping in my bed when I suddenly felt a chill that woke me up. When I rolled over in bed with my eyes open, I saw a very black shadow of a man with what appeared to be a top hat on his head. He also was carrying a cane and had a long coat with coattails on it. I couldn't make out any details of his body or face, just the shadowy figure of a man standing there. After I saw him, I turned back over onto my other side. I tried to convince myself that I was imagining what I had just seen. Then, suddenly it got bone-chilling cold. I rolled back over and he was now directly to the side of my bed, hovering directly above me. As I looked at him, he kind of lost his distinctive form. Then I felt like he was suddenly on top of me, choking me. I was quickly rendered unable to scream or move, so I did all that I could do. In my head, I asked God, if he existed, to help me and to not let this thing kill me and my unborn child. In that moment, it left. It took me a few minutes to gather the strength to practically crawl over to my parents' bedroom. I was so weak and scared that it took a lot out of me to get there. I didn't hesitate in telling my parents that something had just tried to kill me. My mom said that I was being ridiculous because she thought if someone had come into the house, she would have heard them. It's when I told her that it was not someone, but something that tried to kill me. The next night, the Shadow Man was back in my room at the end of my bed, but this time, I could hear a clearly sinister laugh coming from him. That was it for me. I never wanted to be back and sleeping in my room ever again. I asked my parents if we could switch bedrooms the next night. I was happy that they agreed because they got a sense that something was wrong in there because neither of them could sleep the whole night. So the next day, my whole family gathered in my bedroom and we began to pray. My father prayed to God and said that we should not have to fear being in our own house. Then my dad bellowed, "Satan, get out of here!" It did not even sound like my dad at that moment. Then suddenly, we all saw this shadow leave my bedroom, right through the window. I never saw him again, but I never forgot him either.
Most people are scared of the dark, or more accurately, what's hiding in the dark. Darkness obscures. Darkness hides. Darkness is the unknown, and we're all scared of the unknown. In that darkness, shadows hide, and they take the shape of people, and they watch us. Their intentions are unknown. So be careful, as you never really know what hides in the shadow of this frightening folklore.
Once again, we want to thank you for listening to Snipe Hunt. Your listening has been noted and will be reported to the proper authorities. All audio used was done so under the protection of fair use.
Logo design is by Ethan Rothfuss. The music you heard in this episode was composed by Mayu and Nature World 1986. We'll continue to search for the unexplained, and we'll hopefully see you on the next hunt. When I was a young boy, my father took me
into the city
to see him march band.
and the Hatman.
See the hat. No, that didn't work. See the Shadow Man.